Hello guys, so good day. So today we're going to learn about our topic is about Republic Act 4688. So your RA 4688, its title is Clinical Laboratory Law of 1966. Class, I think the one that will stand out here is 1966. Yes, since 1966 class, they implemented a law to regulate our laboratories. Yeah, and they made the law to regulate or to accredit our laboratories. Class, there have been updates with this law. Yeah, but basically what we're going to learn today are the ins and outs of our clinical laboratory. So class, if basketball players class have basketball courts class, medical laboratory scientists have their clinical laboratory. Yeah, and so this is the area where you will work class. So this will be the avenue where we will apply the principles that we are going to learn. And so class, um the key thing about RA 4688, basahin natin, an act regulating the operation and maintenance of clinical laboratories and requiring the registration of the same with UH, providing penalty for the violation thereof and for other purposes. So class, so in regulating the operation, accrediting your clinical laboratories class is under the responsibility of DOH. Yeah. So class, it is promulgated for the purpose of preventing the operation and maintenance of substandard, improperly managed, and poorly equipped clinical laboratories. So class, we are trying to prevent substandard clinical laboratories. Yeah. So class, if you remember that we should have proper waste management, there um, should be procedures to maintain laboratory safety, to protect the people who are working inside the laboratory, to protect the environment, and to protect people who are in our building as well. So class, with Republic Act 4688, it's regulating all our laboratories. Yan. So it's trying to remove substandard. Yan. Class, laboratories who are not of par, laboratories who are not properly equipped. Yan, baka in their laboratory, they're still using their mouth to pipette blood. Class, ano na yan, obsolete na yan. Using your mouth na para mag-pipette ng blood or parang to aliquot or transfer blood. Class, luma na yung mga techniques na yon. So they're trying to regulate these laboratories because class substandard laboratories can hurt the environment. Substandard laboratories can hurt other people. Yeah. So class, here in our images. And class, laboratories should have proper ways of disposing their blood bags, their needles, class. So imagine that yung mga garbage person natin, yung mga nagmamanage ng mga waste natin, pwede silang matusok, class. Dahil sa mga improperly thrown out needles, yan, blood bags, class. I think I got this photo from a news in Lapu-Lapu City. And there was a news that a hospital in Cebu or in Lapu-Lapu City that there were medical wastes in the regular trash. Yan. So here, class, substandard clinical laboratories. So class, bawal ang mga underground illegal laboratories. Yan. So it will be monitored by your DOH. Class, I just want to add this. And who here are using vape? Yan, class. You know, there's still I think there are already studies that vape are not good for you. Yan. So to discourage you in using vape, class, you know, the creation of juice of vape is not standardized. Yan. Many people just mix juices in their own homes. Class, hindi siya standardized. So, ma'am, what's the implication? What is the consequence when juices are not standardized when it is manufactured? So class, you don't know the concentration of nicotine inside your juice. You don't know what chemicals are placed inside the juice. And you don't know, class, if that juice been performed have been prepared cleanly, ganyan. So, was it done in a sanitary condition? Kasi class, yung may friend ako, tapos yung pinsan niya, yumaman dahil sa paggagawa ng juice, class. So, he is the one that making his own juice. In class, it is illegal. That guy is just mixing juice in his basement, basically. So, class, you have to be careful. Yan. Because these things are not standardized. So, class, we have to also be careful in the laboratories that we are will be working at, or laboratories that you get tested for, to make sure that they are really licensed laboratories. Class, do you know that our laboratories should be licensed every year? It should be renewed every year. Yan. So once a laboratory missed a renewal, class, they are not accredited anymore. Yan. So class, in the creation of vape juice, there's no accreditation, there's no standardization of making juice. Yan. So it can be dangerous. So class, I told you DOH is the one that's in charge in accrediting your laboratories. The specific sector in your DOH is Health Facilities and Services Regulatory Bureau, or HFSRB, Health Facilities and Services Regulatory Bureau. So class, I cannot forget my teacher in college. Yeah. She said, the way she pronounced bureau is bureau. Ayun, hindi ko na makakalimutan. Bureau. Anyway, so we have now this Administrative Order number 2007, year 2007, number 27, yan. At least it's updated already. So these are revised rules and regulation in governing your licensure and regulation. Yan. So class, we're not really learning RA 4688 today, but now it's updated counterpart, which is Administrative Order number 2007, year 2007, number 27. Yan. So huwag niyo kakalimutan yan. AO 2007, series 27, series of 2007, whatever. Yan. So it mentions in RA 4688 and AO 27, series of 2007, so clinical laboratory is a facility wherein we perform tests on our specimen. Yan. So our test includes our clinical chemistry test, hematology, and so on, class. So ang raming ginagawa in a clinical laboratory. I think it's a great opportunity for you guys because the trend right now is specialization. Now, if you in SLU, they have a master's, master's in medical technology, majoring in microbiology, or master's in medical technology, majoring in transfusion medicine. Ayan. So, class, pwede kayo, sorry, you can choose, class, your field. Ayan. You can specialize on one field. So class, the other functions of clinical laboratory, advisory services, yan. Class, right now, our RITM, or Research Institute for Tropical Medicine. So RITM right now is very popular. The word that RATM, you can always hear them in the news. They are very important in the surveillance of COVID-19 right now. Yan. So they have so much function. So class, today, so we will discover the different classifications of your laboratory. So first, depending on ownership. So either you can work in a government laboratory or in a private laboratory, depending on function. Yan. So either you will choose the clinical pathology function or anatomic pathology function, institutional character. Class, if you want it to be attached in an institution, yung laboratory naka-attach sa isang hospital, sa isang school, or freestanding, and it's standing alone, yan. So the laboratory is not attached to any institution. And service capability, yan. So we have general clinical laboratories. So the most basic clinical laboratories are primary clinical laboratories. And class, it can be as complex as a tertiary clinical laboratory, or a special clinical laboratory, or a limited clinical laboratory. So class, there are so many laboratories you could choose from. Yan. So class, let's start with classification by ownership. Yan. So class, if a laboratory is owned by your government, so class, you will be paid by the government. Yan. So class, maraming pera sa government laboratories. And class, private, yan, individual corporation, association, or organization. So class, right now, so I'm a medical technologist. I work in the academe. Ano kaya ang University of Baguio? Is it privately owned or government owned? Yan. So as a medical technologist, I work in a private-owned company. Yan. So in University of Baguio class, we have a clinical laboratory. Yan. So we have medical technologists in that clinical laboratory. And ayun class, so they are working in a private institution. So example, those who are working in government hospitals, regional hospitals, yan, mga government yun, tama? So next, classification by function. So we have clinical pathology. So class, here are the sections under clinical pathology. So when we talk about clinical pathology, it's all about blood. Yan, usually about blood. So blood, urine, stool. So, yun yung mga specimen usually na ginagamit natin. When we'll talk about anatomic pathology, usually their specimen of choice are tissues, yan, cadavers, cells. Yun. So, class, dito sa clinical pathology, we have clinical chem, hematology, immunohematology, or blood banking, microbiology, immunology, CM, clinical microscopy, endocrinology. Class, what's endocrinology? Study of what? That's your homework. We have molecular biology. So class, your PCR test is under clinical pathology. Cytogenetics. So about genes in cells. Ma'am, why did you say that that when the cells are the specimen, it's in anatomic pathology class? Here in cytogenetics, we are getting the DNA inside the cells, not the cells per se. And class, we have therapeutic drug monitoring. So when we say therapeutic drug monitoring class, some drugs should be monitored well. Yan, when a person is taking it, just like drugs that are for mental health disorders, just like lithium, drugs for the heart or the kidneys, you should monitor the dosage of drugs if we are still achieving its therapeutic levels. Yan. Kung therapeutic pa ba yung drug, we have to monitor it. Yan, or it's not doing good anymore. So class, anatomic pathology is a really different world. Yan. So here they are performing autopsy. So I told you the specimen that they use here, that we utilize here, is your tissues. Class, histopathology, cytology is in this part of the lab. Yan. So class, in BGH, in Baguio General Hospital, their clinical laboratory section and their anatomic pathology section, class, are two different buildings. Yan. Because class, they have two different jobs. Yan. So class, usually, so surgical pathology, immunohistopathology, class, they require are really pathologists in that section. Yan. So to monitor the autopsy, forensic pathology, ganyan. So yun, it's about tissue, it's about cells, Yan, they're diagnosing whether there is cancer, yan, in immunohistopathology. But in autopsy, they're finding the sources of death, the causes of death. Yan, forensic pathology, they are trying to search whether the death is caused by a sickness or a foul play or crime, ganun. So we utilize tissue. And classification by institutional character. So whether a laboratory is institution-based. So when we say institution-based, the clinical laboratory is attached, yan, or operates within a premise of an institution. So the clinical laboratory is attached to a hospital, is attached to a medical clinic or a school or medical facility for OFWs, drug rehab, class may lab doon. For example, dialysis center, yan, may lab doon, ganyan. It's institution-based, yan. Birthing home, tapos biglang may lab. Psychiatric facility, tapos may lab. So that's institution-based. And class, we have freestanding laboratories. One of the famous freestanding laboratories is High Precision Laboratory. I think we have it all over the country. Yan. Meron bang high precision laboratory sa inyo class? Sa La Union, meron. Ayan, here in Baguio, meron. So, yan, freestanding. So, classification by service capability. Ayan. So, class, in this part of the topic, so we will focus on the general clinical laboratory. So, we will differentiate whether a laboratory is a primary clinical lab, secondary clinical lab, and a tertiary clinical laboratory. Yan. So, hopefully, class, if you will go to your example, to a hospital near you, yan, hopefully, ma-assess nyo kung secondary ba siya, tertiary lab ba siya, or primary. Yan. So, class, after listening to this discussion, I hope that you would try to research on the close clinical laboratories in you. Yan, yung mga malalapit na clinical laboratory sa inyo. And I know it's scary to go out, ganyan. Perhaps you could just observe ano ba yung mga test na binibigay nila at anong clinical lab kaya sila. Yan. So, class, your general clinical laboratory has three classifications, ha? So, first is we have primary category so we have primary category. So, it has the minimum service capability. Class we're in, it only provides the routine test. So, class, ang mga primary clinical laboratories, they provide the minimum tests or the routine tests that are commonly requested by your doctors. Class, yung mga pinaka-basic na laboratory, yun yung mga primary clinical lab. I think yung mga primary clinical laboratory, usually yung mga nasa rural health unit natin, yung nasa district hospital namin, yung sa Nagilian, ganyan. That's a primary clinical laboratory. Ano ba yung mga test, class, na ino-offer ng mga primary category laboratories? So, first one is routine hematology. Yan. So, class, ito lang yung sa hematology section, CBC lang, class, ang ino-offer nila na test. Yan. Class, marami pang test under hematology. Class, if you remember, meron tayong mga clotting time, APTT, PTPA, class, sa mga tertiary laboratories yon. So, dito, class, sa primary category, it only provides the very basic, the most essential, which is your complete blood count. Class, under your complete blood count, we have three important tests. H&H, ano H&H? Hemoglobin and hematocrit. Yan, hemoglobin and hematocrit. Mamaya, explain ko yan. We have white blood cell count and differential count. Ma'am, nasaan dito yung platelet count at nasaan yung red blood cell count? Yan. So, class, yung actually, in a primary category, class, the platelet count is actually separated. Yan. Kasi sa AO 27, series of 2007, nakahiwalay yung platelet count. So, class, yung next na question, ma'am, bakit walang red blood cell count? Class, red blood cell, is very abundant in our circulation. So it's very difficult, it's very tedious to count and be precise. So what we do in the laboratory is we count the hematocrit instead and the hemoglobin instead. So class, hematocrit is the red blood cell volume. Red blood cell volume. So class, the unit for your hematocrit is usually in percentage. Yan. So usually the normal volume of your red blood cell should be around about 40% to 50% ang red blood cell. So it will, if the red blood cell volume is about 20%, yan, 20%, 25%, nako, pwede ng signs ng anemia yan. So that's your red blood cell volume. It's in your percentage. And class, the other H, it stands for your hemoglobin. Yan. So hemoglobin is the protein portion of your red blood cell. So it's the protein that carries oxygen. Yan. So class, ayan. So, sorry. So, a low hemoglobin count, class, can also be pointing to anemia. Ayan. So, pag mababa yung mga proteins ng red blood cell natin, it is directed to anemia. Ma'am, bakit dalawa yung about WBC? We have WBC count and differential count. So, WBC count is we quantitate the amount of your white blood cells. Yan. Binibilang natin, but not manually, class. Pwedeng manually, yan. But matututunan nyo sa hematology. But we can use a machine already. And class, we have differential count. Yan. So, class, counting your WBCs is not enough. Yan. Class, in differential counting, we classify your white blood cells depending on their type. You remember your never let monkeys eat banana. Diba? Neutrophils, eosinophils, basophils, lymphocytes. Yan. Let monkeys eat. Never let monkeys, monocytes, eat eosinophil, banana, basophil. So class, we need to classify your white blood cells into the different subtypes of your white blood cell. Isn't it that I told you guys that if the neutrophil is increased in its percentage, it can point to a bacterial infection. If the eosinophils are high, it can be a parasitic infection. Lymphocytes are high, it can be a viral infection. Yan. Monocytes are phagocytes. So, pwede siyang tumaas pag may bacterial infection as well. Pero, class, ang pinaka-main doon, neutrophil. And class, when we have allergic reaction, it's basophil. Yan. So, class, differential count is very important for the doctor to tell whether an infection is bacterial in nature or viral in nature. That's why we have differential count. So, huwag niyo kakalimutan yan, guys, ha? So, that's routine hematology. Yan. So, that's one of the basic tests or routine tests that we commonly encounter in the hospital. At isang primary lab at isang pinaka-basic lab, merong routine hematology. So, class, in your CBC count, yan. This is the tube that we use in your complete blood count. This is your lavender top tube. So, ang general name nitong tube na to, class, is a evacuated tube. Evacuated tube. The name is evacuated tube because it has vacuum inside it. Yan, it has vacuum inside it. So, class, that vacuum allows the blood to enter the tube. Yan, evacuated tube yan. And notice, class, na may color. Yan. So, the color represents the anticoagulant that is inside the tube. Yan. So, the color represents the anticoagulant inside the tube. So, class, here, that's a purple top or a lavender top. So, inside that evacuated tube, class, that is your ADTA. ADTA anticoagulant. So, class, ang ibig sabihin ng EDTA is ethylene diamine tetraacetic acid. Ethylene diamine tetraacetic acid. Anyway, kung hindi nyo nakuha, just search for a EDTA tube. And hopefully lalabas yan. Ethylene diamine tetraacetic acid. So class, yun yung anticoagulant na nasa loob ng tube na yan. So class, that EDTA anticoagulant prevents the blood from clotting. Piniiwasan niya ang dugo na mamuumuo. Yan, na mag-clot. Yan, mamuumuo. Parang class, in your Betamax. Yan, sa Betamax natin. Class, alam niyo yung Betamax? Yan, yung dugo sa mga nag-iihaw. So notice that the Betamax is actually a clotted blood. Thinking about it. So namuong blood yung Betamax, class. Notice your dinuguan. Yan. Isn't it that your dinuguan, hindi siya namuo-muo, but it's watery? Why? Because there is an anticoagulant which is vinegar. Yan. Hindi siya buo-buo kasi may vinegar yon which serves as an anticoagulant. Same thing with your purple top. It will not clot, hindi siya mamumuo because it contains a anticoagulant which is EDTA, ethylene diamine tetraacetic acid. What this anticoagulant does is it captures calcium. Yan. Medyo lumalayo na tayo, pero kaya nito, class. Your EDTA captures calcium. Calcium is very important in clotting. So, pag nahuli ni EDTA ang calcium, hindi na mamumuo-muo ang blood. Ganon ang EDTA, class. Galing, di ba? So, ethylene diamine captures calcium, but the best term for capture is it chelates. It chelates. CHELATES. Basically, it envelopes your calcium so that it will not participate in clotting because calcium is very important in clotting. Yan. Para hindi mag-clot, kinakapture ni EDTA yung calcium. Diba? Ang galing, guys. So, ang EDTA class ginagamit sa CBC. So, pag ang test CBC, yan, yun ang top na ginagamit natin. So, class, ito diba ganito yung differential count. So, we count 100 WBCs. Tapos, using a differential counter, we will classify them. So, class, yan, diba, anto? Excuse me. Yan, neutrophil. Simula tayo dito. Ano to, class? Lymphocyte. Kasi, bilog na bilog. Yan, notice here, oh. It's very circular with a thin cytoplasm. Here, yan, ang laki nito, class, oh. Ito, ang laki rin. Ito, ang laki rin. Class, these are monocytes. Yan, these are monocytes. So, they are the largest cells in your circulation. Class, notice their segments or their lobes are not so distinct. So, ito, monocyte yan. Ito, monocyte yan. Ito, monocyte yan. Class, nila, amorphous nung itsura nila. Ito, monocyte yan. Ito, class, bilog na bilog. Ano to? Lymphocyte, diba? Ito rin, bilog na bilog with an indentation. Lymphocyte rin yan. Yan. So, class, practice makes perfect. Ito, 1, 2, 3, 4. It has 4 lobes. Neutrophil class has 3 to 4 lobes na lang. 3 to 5 lobes, pwede. So, ang raming lobes nito, neutrophil rin yan. Neutrophil to, class. Ito, neutrophil rin, class. And notice, there are filaments. May filaments na nag-hold together ng mga lobes. Yung parang thread-like structure. Yan. So, yan, class. Ito, neutrophil rin. Ito, class, dalawa lang yung lobe. Dalawa. So, usually, pag dalawa yung lobe, eosinophil, sorry. Eosinophil. Ito, class, horseshoe pattern. This is a stab cell or a juvenile neutrophil. Ibig sabihin, hindi pa siya, eventually, pag matandaan na tong stab cell, class, magkakaroon siya ng maraming lobes. Pero since it was released prematurely from the bone marrow, yan, mukha lang siyang horseshoe shape. So, this is a stab cell. STAB, stab cell. Yan. So ito, paano masabi na eosinophil? Kasi usually, yung ganitong shape, parang dumbbell shape. Ayan, eosinophil yan. Wala naman siyang hindi naman makakita yung red-orange granules niya. Yes, class, pag hindi masyadong maganda yung pag-stain. Yan, but notice kasi yung shape niya. Oh. Tapos ang distinct pa ng granules niya. Class, itong mga malilit na to, these are your platelets. Yan. Yung mga circles na marami sa background, that's your red blood cell. Class, itong maliliit na itong mga to, yan. Platelets, yung mga yan. Okay? Okay. So, another tests that are found in your primary category laboratory, we have your qualitative platelet determination. Class, pag primary category lang, qualitative platelet determination lang tayo. So, we just describe the number of your platelets, if it's increased, normal, something like that, hindi yung precise na number. Because it's primary category only. We have routine urinalysis, routine fecalysis, and class, if the primary clinical laboratory is attached to a hospital, that's the only time it is allowed to perform blood typing. But if the laboratory is only freestanding, a primary category lab is not allowed to do blood typing. Ayan. So, ayun class. So, I think at the moment, bihira na lang ang primary lab. Yan. Mas maraming secondary lab class kesa primary lab. So, notice class, dito sa primary lab, walang clinical chemistry test. Walang testing for blood sugar, cholesterol, ganyan. Simple lang yung mga test dito. CBC, urinalysis, fecalysis, may qualitative platelet determination. Notice qualitative and blood typing if it is based on a hospital. Kakaintindihan? Yeah. So class, isn't it that in urinalysis, we test the physical characteristics of urine, the microscopic characteristics, the chemical characteristics. So class, we use a proper container for your urine testing and for your stool testing. Class, ito yung blood typing. So class, these are actually the results of your blood typing. So class, the agglutination, yung buo class, means that there is a positive reaction. Yan. Class, ang dali lang ng blood typing. Actually, we only utilize 3 reagents. Anti-A reagent, which is the color blue reagent, A as in azul, anti-B reagent, which is B, veneno, yellow siya. Notice yellow. And anti-D reagent. So, class, this anti-A, so class, pag nag-positive ang isang tao sa anti-A, so ibig sabihin, blood type A siya. Yan. Pag may nag-agglutinate sa anti-A, so kailangan mo ng 3 drops of blood. Kung yung isang drop of blood nag-positive, dinrapan mo ng anti-A, and there is agglutination, meaning you are blood type A. Yan. And class, if there is no agglutination in anti-B, blood type A ka talaga. Yan. But, ma'am, ano tong anti-D? So, anti-D will tell whether you're A positive or A negative. Yun. So, class, your D is your D reagent. D antigen, actually, D antigen. So, class, ang mga Pilipino, usually, we are positive for D antigen or your RH blood group, RH blood. Basta class, yung nagsasabi kung positive or negative ka, O positive, O negative. So, usually, class, mga Pilipino ay positive for D antigen. Yan. So, ito, basically, itong tatlong to, positive sila. Ito, negative. So, class, so dito yung first line natin, your blood type is A blood type. Yan. Next, class, dito, walang agglutination sa anti-A. Sa anti-B, may agglutination. May agglutination rin sa D. So, basically, your B positive. Yan, B positive. Here, class, may agglutination sa anti-A, may agglutination sa B, may agglutination sa D. So that person is an AB positive, class AB positive. So here, class, there's no reaction in anti-A, no reaction in anti-B. So class, wala siyang both A and B antigen. So that person is O. So class, ang underwhelming ng reaction ng mga O, alam ko maraming O positive sa atin. Yan. So class, walang reaction pag O patient ka. So here, O negative yung pasyente kasi walang agglutination sa anti-D. Yan. So class, next week, magpapalabster ako ng blood typing. Yan. Excuse me. So now, we are in our secondary laboratory. So class, primary laboratory plus routine clinical chemistry. So pag secondary lab class, kasama pa rin dito ang CBC, kasama pa rin ang qualitative platelet count, ang urinalysis, fecalysis, blood typing, plus routine clinical chem. Yan. So pag secondary lab class, merong kasama ng clinical chemistry, yung cholesterol, fasting blood sugar, yan. So your blood glucose, fasting blood sugar, and random blood sugar. We have blood uric acid. So in the image class, it shows gouty arthritis. Class, ang sakit na. Yan. So if you love eating meat products, yan, especially men, if you like eating seafoods, class, nako, you're prone to blood uric acid. Ang sakit niyan. So please exercise. Yan, balance lang. And class, we also use test just like creatinine and blood urea nitrogen. So this two class is for assessing kidney diseases. Yan. So class, nadagdagan yung mga routine test natin ng clinical chemistry test. Ano pang mga clinical chemistry test, class? Lipid profile. So under lipid profile are a group of tests. So lipid profile, so, class, pang ano na to number 4 na to. Or 5. Anyway, blood glucose, blood uric acid, creatinine, continuation. We also have lipid profile. So, under lipid profile, class, are a group of our tests. So, pag lahat ng pertaining sa cholesterol, class, ang tawag doon, lipid profile or sa taba ng katawan. So, class, we have TC, total cholesterol. We have LDL and HDL. So, class, may image ako dito para hindi nyo makalimutan. Here, we have LDL. Yan, it's a devil. And HDL is an angel. Because LDL, class, is your bad cholesterol. And your HDL is a good cholesterol. Ayan. So, class, it's not enough that the doctor will assess the number of your cholesterol. But what the doctor will also see are your LDL, your bad cholesterol, and HDL, your good cholesterol. Ayan. So, class, diba, class, testing for blood cholesterol is very important because if there is excess cholesterol, class, it can deposit in the arteries and cause a plaque formation. Yan, pwedeng magbara. It can lead to stroke. It can lead to hypertension. So, class, sobrang halaga nitong lipid profile. And once your parents were tested with cholesterol, at least pwede nyo lang ma-analyze, pwede nyo lang malaman kung marami ba silang good cholesterol or marami silang bad cholesterol. So, class, HDL, high density lipoprotein, is your good cholesterol. So, dapat mas mataas siya, the better. And LDL, so low density lipoprotein, class, dapat mababa siya. Yan. So, kung mataas ang LDL mo, alarm to. Diba? Pwede nang i-apply sa buhay nyo, class. So, ang tanong natin, ma'am, bakit ang HDL good cholesterol? Bakit ang LDL bad cholesterol? Class, imagine, this HDL and LDL are actually vehicles. Yan, vehicles. So, these vehicles, class, have different routes in your body. Yan. So, these two vehicles, your HDL and LDL, class, they carry lipids around your body. Your LDL is bad. It's a bad cholesterol because this vehicle, this transporter class carries your fats on the walls of your blood vessels. Yan. LDL is a bad cholesterol because it carries the fats in the walls of your blood vessels. Yan. Class, pause muna tayo dyan. And class HDL is a good cholesterol because this vehicle or this transporter carry your fat towards your liver. So class, when your fat is carried in your liver, class, it could be emulsified, it could be broken down, it can be utilized for making vitamins, for making hormones. But class, when your fat is brought to your blood vessels, class, it's a bad idea because it can accumulate and form plaque, deposit into plaque. So class, it could occlude or obstruct the blood flow. Since rumarami yung lipid deposit, pwede niyang barahan ang ating blood vessels. What else? It can make your blood vessel very fragile. Yan. So class, this guy, so I watched it on TED Talk. Yan. This guy is promoting healthy lifestyle. Yan. Because in the US, many kids were overweight and obese. Ganyan. So this guy, class, told a story wherein he was assigned in their anatomic laboratory a cadaver. So sa school nilang last, binigyan siya ng cadaver and apparently overweight yung nakuha niyang cadaver. Yan, overweight individual. So cadaver is a dead body. Yan. So their teacher said that find the blood vessels. Yan. Find the blood vessel. So hindi nila alam kung anong blood vessel. Sir or ma'am, how does a blood vessel feel? Ano bang pakiramdam ng blood vessel? It's like a guitar string. Sabi niya, if you pull it, it's very flexible. Yan. So this guy that I was telling you about, so he was looking, so under the cadaver, hinahanap niya yung blood vessel. And he thought that he found a blood vessel from that obese cadaver. And when he pulled the blood vessel, class, ang bilis na putol. Yan. It's very fragile. While because the accumulation of lipid makes your blood vessels fragile, which makes you prone for stroke or aneurysm. Ganyan. So, yun, class. Healthy lifestyle lang tayo. Okay? So, and maintain a healthy weight, class. So, aside from addition of clinical laboratory sa secondary lab, clinical chemistry, meron na tayong quantitative platelet determination. Now, we could really quantify. Yan. So, may number na yung platelets natin, hindi na lang increase, decrease. Ganyan. So, class, ito yung mga platelets natin, no? Yun, no? Yung maliliit na yan. Mga dots na yan. Platelets yan. So, it should be hospital-based, class. Cross-matching. So, when we are assessing the compatibility of blood products. So, before a blood is transfused to a person, kailangan i-cross-match muna yung dugo nung nag-donate at nung magre-receive. So, if their blood is compatible, now we could transfuse blood. Yan. So, class, kailangan hospital-based ang secondary lab para maka-perform ng quantitative platelet determination, cross-matching, and gram staining. Naiintindihan, ha? So that it needs to be hospital-based. Therefore, class, if a laboratory is a freestanding secondary lab, it cannot perform this one. Okay? Hindi pwede siyang mag-cross-matching. Class, pwede siyang mag-cross-matching, wala namang naka-admit na pasyente, wala siyang tatransfusan. Yan, kung freestanding yung laboratory nila. Okay? And class KOH. Yan, KOH is potassium hydroxide. I think may image ako dito. So class, this is your gram staining. So it's a preliminary identification of bacteria. So class, for your gram staining, so sa microbiology section ginagamit to. Bago tayo mag-culture ng isang bacteria, we need to stain it first, yan, to assess if the bacteria is gram-positive or gram-negative. So, you noticed in your lobster, they identified Bacillus anthracis as a gram-positive bacilli. So, pag sinasabi natin gram-positive ang isang bacteria, pag na-stain siya ng gram stain, the color is violet. Yan. But class, when something is gram-negative, the color is pink. So this is a way of preliminary identifying our bacteria because our bacteria are classified to gram-negative and gram-positive. Kumbaga class, pag nag-identify tayo ng bacteria, kumbaga parang add one out. Yan. So if a bacteria is gram-positive, lahat ng test para sa gram-positive, yun ang gagawin natin kasi gram-positive yung bacteria natin. Hindi natin ipo-perform ang mga test na para sa gram-negative bacteria. So it's a way for us to identify our bacteria. So class, for gram staining, we utilize 4 stains. Yan, we utilize 4 stains. So para mas madali niyong maintindihan, the mnemonic is VIAS. Violet, VIAS, VIAS. Yan, tsaka naka-order na yan. First, we stain the specimen with crystal violet, yan, or violet. Crystal violet na lang class para complete. Iodine, class, yung iodine parang betadine. Alcohol, then safranin. So crystal violet is the stain that provides the violet color, and safranin is the stain that provides the pink color. Yan. So class, notice, so application of crystal violet. So, una ang nilalagay, crystal violet. Yan. Tapos yung next, iodine, yung betadine or mordant. So, next class, i-wash siya ng alcohol. Yan. So, yung ibang bacteria class, natatanggal yung violet na color niya. So, ang natitira, pag nilagyan mo ng pink na stain, yung pink na stain, so, ayun na, mga gram-negative yun. Yung mga na-wash out ng alcohol, magiging pink sila. Natanggal yung violet eh. Yan. So, class, ang mga violet, they are gram-positive. Ang mga pink, they are gram-negative. Yan. So, gram staining. Yan. Preliminary identification of your bacteria. And class, we have also preliminary identification of fungi. Yan. So, class, itong KOH test, so, mga hospital-based lang to. So, kung may kati-kati kayo class, yan. So, what we do, so, kunyari may mga makati dyan. So, what we do is we get a slide, tapos we will scratch a portion from your skin. Magtatanggal kami ng portion sa skin, ilalagay yung mga skin scraping sa isang slide, and we will drop KOH or potassium hydroxide, and we will focus it under the microscope. Example, pag may ringworm, yan, or may athlete's foot, or may dandruff. So we get a scraping, place it in a slide, then focus it, drop potassium hydroxide, and focus it under the microscope. And what we can see if a person is positive for fungal infections are hyphae. Yan. HYPHAE. Yan. HYPHAE. Hyphae. Parang mga ganyan-ganyan class. Dapat walang ganyan. So, ganun. May mga spores. Ito yung mga spores. Tapos may hyphae. Yan. So, fungal infection yan. So, magka-stem ka na. And class, we have our tertiary laboratory. So, pag tertiary lab, mga routine tests from our primary lab, may mga blood typing, cross-matching, mga clinical laboratory tests, tapos nadagdagan pa ng special chemistry test. So, class, pag sa tertiary laboratory, mas maraming test na perform. Ma'am, what are the examples of special chemistry tests when we test about the different hormones? Yan. Your testosterone, your thyroid hormones with tumor markers. Your tertiary lab class not only have your complete blood count, but also your coagulation test. Example, prothrombin test and activated partial thromboplastin time. Yan. So, yan yung mga na-add pag tertiary lab. So, mas maraming ginagawa. What else, class? Yung immunology test. Yan. So, walang immunology test sa secondary lab. Sa tertiary lang yan. So, we have dengue test, syphilis, or rapid plasma reagin, RPR. We have HIV test, hepatitis A, B, C, rapid testing sa immunology yan. And also, class, we have microbiology. So, kailangan mong maging tertiary lab. Kung gusto mong class ng microbiology section, mag-apply kayo sa mga tertiary laboratory. Class, notice yung parang ang pag-test ng dengue, ng HIV, ng rapid test ng COVID-19 and COVID-19. Class, yung parang lang, sa pregnancy, lang. Yan. This is what we call a cartridge. Yan. And what we place there, di ba, pag pregnancy test, what we place is urine. Yan. What we place is urine. So, here, pag dengue, ganyan, we drop blood or your serum. So, aerobic and anaerobic. Yan. So, class yun primary, secondary, tertiary. So, your primary lab or the basic laboratory, yung mga routine test lang. We have secondary clinical laboratory. So, the routine test plus clinical chemistry test plus cross-matching plus, ano ba yun? Gram staining plus KOH test. Diba? And class, we have your special clinical laboratories, the one that tests your activated partial thromboplastin time, your hormones, your tumor markers, your microbiology testing, yan, nasa tertiary laboratory yan, mga serological test, dengue, tertiary yan. Now, class, we have limited service capability. So these are usually institution-based. Example, laboratories that are in dialysis clinic. Limited service capability lang sila, class. Kasi usually sa dialysis clinic, hindi naman kailangan ng test. Hindi lahat ng test kailangan. So, ang kailangan lang nila, usually dito, mga creatinine, BUN, electrolytes, yung mga related sa kidney lang. CBC, ganyan. Baka wala nga fecalysis diba? Hygiene clinic. So usually hygiene clinic, they test for STDs. STD. We have rehabilitation facility. So perhaps drug testing lang. Yan. Ma'am, in what section do we test for drug testing? So class, here in the Philippines, usually drug testing is a separate facility, but the specimen that we use in drug testing is urine. Yan, urine only. At class, we have special clinical laboratories. So they focus on molecular biology, your RT-PCR, kasama dyan sa special clinical lab. We have assisted reproduction technology, plus yung mga laboratories which perform in vitro fertilization, yung mga nag-a-assist sa mga pamilya na hindi magkaanak. Plus, alam nyo, ikakayaman nyo yun pag nag-work kayo sa mga ganon. Plus, I know a family who wants to forgo to in vitro fertilization. Ang pinapaprepare sa kanila, 2 million pesos. Yan, dito sa Pilipinas. Para mag-perform ng in vitro fertilization. Yan. So, ang mahal niya. Tapos, wala pang kasiguraduhan yan. So, class, this is our license to operate in the UB Clinical Lab. Grabe, 2016 pa tong photo na to. So, I'll get an updated one next time. So, every year, laboratories should renew their accreditation and their registration. So, your LTO or license to operate is good for only 1 year. Yan, 1 year. So, the specific office that provides your license to operate is your BFHS, diba? Or HFSRB pala, Health Facilities and Service Regulatory Bureau. Tama ba ako? Basta HFSRB. Okay. So class, we are on our second part.